Are you in the house? Data, come on, data, come on, data, come on.
Oh, when you this by every chart, talking sweet and looking smart, I get kind of electric inside. So data, I'm so into you, data. If you only knew all the charts that flow through my eyes, but it's just a sweet. I'm in education. Oh yeah, with my dashboard, my delivering dashboard. So deep, from prototypes to adoption, of course. Sweet sight, I'm visiting insights, sorties and eduvins. Sweet eduvins, sweet eduvins. So sweet, you're my eduvins. Sweet eduvins. Images of dashboards all on Tableau Public. Education business in my head. I like that. And my heart beats faster when we collab together, time and time and time again. I'm in education. Oh yeah. In my dashboard, my delivering dashboard. So deep. There's some device there to be explored. Feels like I'm visiting insights, sorties and eduvins. Sweet eduvins. It's just so sweet. I'm in education. Oh yeah, with my dashboard, my performance tracking dashboard. There's grades, attendance, and assessment scores. So deep data, just a sweet insights, sorties and
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the EDU plus public crew. Here we go now, raise the roof. Men do Elisa go back like vizzes. Supons require Codino, dog, no liar. Keep your eduviz hot like fire. Jeff, let me see your wisdom. Dennis, let me see your visit. And Emanuela, get tracking with it and just visit. We're a little bit public, we're a little bit EDU. We done got public gold, big data, all big and bold. Public plus EDU across the globe.
I'm in education with my data fam, my brilliant fam. I'm in education, oh yeah, with my dashboard, my killer-winning dashboard. Sweet eduvins, you'll find some business that'll leave you floored. Sweet like I'm visiting insights, sorties and eduvins, yeah. What you gonna do when spring break starts?
We gon' do a mega collab.
What you gonna do when spring break starts?
We gon' publish that viz.
What you gonna do when spring break starts?
We gon' have some fun.
What you gonna do when spring break starts?
We gon' have some fun.
Sweet eduvins, I'm in education. Sweet, oh yeah. My dashboard, my Tableau, the dashboard. Some business that'll leave you floored. I'm visiting insights, sorties and eduvins. I'm in education. Sweet, oh yeah. My dashboard, my Tableau, some business that'll leave you floored. I'm visiting insights, sorties and eduvins.
Hello, Data Fam, and welcome to Tableau PublicTUG Spring Break. We are coming to you live with major viz vibes and sweet tunes like the one you just heard. That was Sweet Sweet Eduviz by Dua Lisa and CoDB, flipping the script on the iconic Mariah Carey and ODB track, Fantasy. And Raquel already called it in the chat. That's going to be the official song of Spring Break. You're going to hear that in all the clubs. I'm Lisa Triscott, and I'm coming to you straight from the sunny shores of San Diego, bringing you this special Spring Break edition of the Tableau PublicTUG, where we're teaming up with our friends across the education data fam. That's right, higher ed, California community colleges, K-12, university teaching and learning. We've got the whole EDU TUG crew in the house. We've also got vizzes hotter than Daytona Beach and a lineup of speakers ready to absolutely rock your data world. So let's meet the headliners taking the stage today. we have none other than Jeffrey Shaffer, an absolute Tableau legend in our community spotlight. Then Dennis Cal will show us how he pimped his viz on school-age digital connectivity. And rounding out the lineup, Emanuela, aka Ella Sudome, is going behind the scenes of her academic performance tracker dashboard. These are three amazing DataFam community members to bring us highlights from the world of education. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this show. But before that, let's get this beach party going and meet all the VJs, that's Viz Jockeys, and TUGs co-hosting this special spring break event. I'm your host today, Lisa Trescott. I am indeed from the world of education. I'm a research analyst at Miracosta College, and I'm a Tableau visionary and ambassador. I'm joined by my amazing co-hosts from the Tableau PublicTUG, who are all fellow ambassadors. We have Rob Taylor, senior BI analyst at JLL, Priyanka Dubal, analytics consultant at Cadillac Fairview, and Eric Howard, manager of data analytics at Vanderbilt University Medical Center and co-lead of the Nashville TUG. Two of our colleagues couldn't join us as VJs today. I hope they are off having a real spring break party. But we have two other members of our leadership team as well. That's Agata Ketterick, Data Strategy Director at USA Today, and Preeti Lodha, Director of Data Analytics and Operations at the University of Massachusetts. Now you might be asking, what exactly is the Tableau PublicTUG? Well, we're a global user group that meets virtually once a month, and our mission is simple. Give you the VIP backstage pass to your favorite viz of the days. Think of it like MTV Cribs, but for data viz, where we open the door and let the authors show you around their vizzes. We kick off each meeting with a community spotlight where we hang out with amazing members of the data fam and hear about their journeys, how they got started, how they leveled up their skills, and what inspires their work. Then it's time to hit the main stage where two Viz of the Day authors join us to walk through their dashboards, share the inspiration behind their designs, and give us a tour of how their winning vizzes came together. All right, Data Fam, the party's just getting started. And like any great MTV Spring Break special, we've got friends dropping by from all over the place. So let's get to know our collaborators. First, we have the Higher Education TUG or the HE TUG. Over to Ginny from that TUG to get to something to tell us about her TUG.
How am I supposed to follow that, Lisa? That is such a great intro. Well, I'm Ginny Minch from Appalachian State University in North Carolina, and I co-lead the HE TUG with Sam Homier, who is at Everett Community College in Washington State, James Emery at Georgia Tech in Georgia, and then Roshni Gohill from MIT in Massachusetts. And if you don't have plans on March 32nd, and I bet you don't, then you should join us for our April 1st HE TUG meeting, where we're going to learn about data collection while we look at vizzes on chickens and eggs. And we're going to learn about map layers for non-map data. And then finally, we'll wrap up with our free resources for data lineage documentations. It's going to be a great time. You should definitely join us on your spring break.
All right, next up, we have, oh, I lost this. Sam Homeyer will be talking to us about the CCC TUG.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. And yes, that was a beautiful introduction. And okay, I love how your background is the beach too. It's perfect. So I lead the CCC TUG with Lisa Trescott and Kim Coots, both from Miracosta College in San Diego. And we meet quarterly to talk about things related to either community colleges or maybe something specific happening at the California level. And our next meeting is May 13th, where we're going to spring into data. So please join us for that, where we'll see Pasadena City College talk about some dashboards they've made.
Sorry, I couldn't get myself off mute. All right, next up, we are over to the K-12 TUG.
Yo, this is K-12 TUG. Coming to you from the West Coast. We also got East Coast. Hello, Raquel. Denise coming out at you. I'm David Ogden. I'm coming straight at you from the Seattle area. And we've got Stephanie Henry representing the Midwest. We are the K-12 TUG. You've been there. Come on back. We all know you've been there. So come on back. We meet all the time. We got 650 registered members. You can be another one. And yo, it's just like MTV raps all the time. Let's go.
Amazing VJing, David. All right, next up, we have the University Teaching and Learning TUG.
All right, welcome everybody. We're the University Teaching and Learning TUG, and people think that we're closed, but we're wide open. Everybody can be a professor for the day. Everybody is learning Tableau. So please join us. We're led by Dennis, who you're going to see in a few minutes, talking about one of his vizzes up from Canada, where I guess it's snowing up there, Dennis. And we got Eric with 100-degree weather. So we got the EDUs all over the map today. Rex is over in San Angelo, Texas. It's probably about 75 degrees. And Leanne's over in Utah. I'm not sure what the weather is in Utah. We need to talk to Leanne, see what's up. But we're always looking for folks to come and be a professor for the day. Best way to learn is to teach it. So take an opportunity to learn and teach with us. And I just checked, we're up to 751 members. So we crossed 750 this morning. And I'll be keeping you updated on March Madness, because spring break means March Madness to me, having gone to the University of Arizona, where March Madness rules our campus.
Amazing, Doc. And that's a great point that he made. All of these TUGs are geared towards education, but they are open to anyone in the data fam who wants to come and learn. All right. Well, thank you to all of our EDU TUGs for being here today and joining us for this spring break party. Just a quick look at the agenda. We just met everybody. We kicked it off with TUG introductions. We're going to jump into a few announcements and highlights from the Tableau conference that's just around the corner. And then we'll get into our main lineup today with Jeffrey Shaffer in the community spotlight, followed by Dennis Cow, and then a quick break to give you some Tableau swag. Then Ella will close out our spring break broadcast. So if you haven't heard, the Ultimate Data Party is landing at the beach. It is coming to my hometown of San Diego, May 5th through 7th. It is going to be here before you know it. And we've got some seriously good news for our education and public sector data fam. You get a huge discount. So if you're still trying to convince your boss to send you, just let them know you get half price for full access to the biggest data party of the year. And if that doesn't convince you to come, let's talk about what's going down at TC this year, because there are 13 sessions that are either all about education or led by people who work in education. The EDU Data Fam is showing up. It is like our own episode of TRL, right? Tableau Request Live. And fun fact, 5 of those speakers are leaders of the TUGs who are here today. We have Doc Kevin Lee Elder, Roshni Gohil, Preeti Loda, Jeff Shaffer, and me. And some of them are doing not 1, but 2 sessions. I'm looking at Roshni and Preeti pulling double duty. So when you are building your TC schedule, make sure you go in and favorite all these sessions. We will be dropping the links in the chat, because these are the ones you're going to want on your countdown. And speaking of can't miss moments, there's one more session we've got to call out for education. And it's how to do cool stuff in Tableau with Kevin and Ken Flairledge. This one is straight up main stage energy. Now, you might be thinking, why are you calling this out as education? These two work at Moxie Analytics, not Moxie University. Well, Roshni's favorite Flairledge twin, Ken, used to work in higher ed. So sure, he may have left the real world of education, but once you're higher ed, you're always higher ed at heart. And honestly, whether it's officially an education session or not, these two are a headlining act you don't want to miss. So get this session bookmark and be sure to see these two crush it on stage at TC. And lastly, we want to call out that EDU is hot to go at TC this year. And I am just getting word now. Yeah, Chapel Roan is featured on this slide, but sadly, she will not be joining us today. She apparently had a prior commitment, but that's okay. I'm going to turn it over to Jenny from the Higher Ed TUG to introduce Harold Thomas. He's been working closely with some of us in the EDU TUGs and has something very special to talk about. So over to you, Jenny.
Thanks again, Lisa. So Harold is joining us to talk about a very special new data set. I don't want to take away too much of his fire there, so I'm just going to let him talk about it. But Harold, I was lucky enough to work with him before he went to Tableau and Salesforce when he was working in higher ed in North Carolina. And I think that was at UNC Asheville and also at Western Carolina University, if I'm not mistaken. So Harold isn't a pop star, but he is a data rock star. And he's, like I said, started his education career at Asheville Buncombe and then moved on to be an Aleutian colleague administrator and a director of institutional research and led the Data Analytics Center for Excellence. So, you know, he's got this great education background. And then for the past 4.5 years, he's been working with higher ed institutions across the Southeast as a principal solution engineer at Salesforce. So, Harold.
Thanks, Jenny.
Take it
Yeah,
away.
actually, you know, the past 4.5 years, I haven't been working at Salesforce. I've been living in a van down by the beach, shooting the curls, riding
Nice.
the waves.
That's my dream.
If you could go to the next slide, Lisa, we've got some very exciting information coming to you straight from the coast of San Diego, of California and San Diego. We have the first ever education. Actually, this is the first ever industry-specific hands-on training session that will ever be offered at Tableau Conference, and it's for education. So we have a special session just for higher education and any education customer, and we're calling it the Dean's List of Measures, Mastering Education Data. We're going to teach you how to build calculations, including table calcs, LODs, complex measures to help you stop waitlisting your insights and learn how to track student cohorts for matriculation, assess financial aid impacts and performance, analyze course capacity to get you all to graduate to data rockstar status with this hands-on training. We're going to run it twice during the conference, so it will be offered in 2 separate days and times. I'll be leading it. I'm building the content for this in close collaboration with the higher education TUG leaders. And another really exciting piece of this is we're going to be rolling out the very first super school data set. This is a data set built with the community to represent the actual data and what it looks like on an education campus. So we're going to use that data set. We're going to build hands-on measures and calculations. And then we'll be sharing that data set more broadly with this community after Tableau Conference. So make sure you keep an eye out for this session and register. I want to see you there. Ride the waves, cowabunga. I hope I matched your energy, at least on some level, Lisa.
Absolutely. I love it. And I do have one question. Can we bookmark or favorite these sessions yet, or?
That I don't know. I don't have a session ID assigned to mine yet, but I do have the title and abstract verified, and that's what you see here. So I'll see if I can get that information before the end of this meeting and put it in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna remove my VJ voice because I don't think my vocal cords can handle it anymore. So we're gonna jump into our community spotlight where we have Jeffrey Shaffer. He's the analytics leader and educator at the University of Cincinnati. When he's not teaching, he serves as the Kirk and Jacki Perry Professor of Analytics and Director of AI Strategy at the University of Cincinnati's Lindner College of Business. He teaches courses on data visualization and artificial intelligence. He speaks globally on analytics and AI, and he co-authored books, including The Big Book of Dashboards and Dashboards That Deliver. In 2025, he received the Michael L. Dean Excellence in Classroom Education and Learning Graduate Teaching Award. And before joining academia full-time, he spent nearly 3 decades leading analytics and technology teams, including serving as the Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of IT and Analytics at Unifund. He's also one of the GOATs of Tableau. In fact, he has a session at TC this year called Tableau Speed Tipping, Return of the GOATs, where he and Andy Kriebel are going to be doing more than 80 tips in 40 minutes. So you definitely want to bookmark that session and check it out. We are extremely lucky to have you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time, Jeff. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad you turned the DJ down because I have a sinus infection. I'm like, I can't bring this energy that you have to this show.
Yeah, no, it's just for the intro. I'll go back to normal.
All right.
Well, thanks for being here. We always like to start off asking our community spotlights how your journey with Tableau began, and then you specifically, how did you get into teaching data visualization?
Yeah, so I was working in the financial sector, working at a fintech. We went through the tools. We were Microsoft reporting services, and then we moved to Cognos, and that wasn't going so well. And so then we were just surveying the tools. And so we literally checked out every tool at the time, and Tableau was on the list. And it was pretty much exactly the same time when I had done some presentations on data viz, and the university asked me to start up a course. So they wanted an elective in data visualization, and I came in and started teaching that class. And at exactly the same time I had to pick a tool at the office, I had to pick a tool for education, and so did the same thing, and in both cases landed on Tableau. Came down to really Tableau at the time, maybe ClickView, MicroStrategy. There were a few others out there, but we ended up using Tableau in both, and that was the beginning of the story. It was the best tool at the time, and it just I felt like maybe I hit the lottery with the guests, because it could have easily had picked something else that would have not gone that way. So yeah, it was a great decision for me.
Yeah, that's great. You got to just completely build the class and everything from scratch. So can you tell us a little bit about your data viz class and how it's structured?
Yeah, the data viz class, mostly I've been teaching graduate students. I lost count. I got to be somewhere in the 8,000 or 10,000 students at this point over the years, but it started as an elective, and it was started as a graduate class. I went with the fundamentals, so I really looked at the work by Stephen Few, really kind of started with his books and kind of embedded that stuff into the course. In fact, he had come out to the University of Cincinnati a couple times. He did a couple presentations there, and so I really kind of grounded the work there and then kind of built from that. I would say it's at this point maybe 60-40, but I always like to say half and half. We really study data viz, and then we work in Tableau for the second half of each class to apply it, to do the application of it. So it's really the format of it that you asked about is really kind of half and half. I'd say lecture content and then hands-on in Tableau, working from the ground up.
So it's 50-50. So how do you decide kind of what fits best for lecture and what fits best for that lab, like learning through doing?
Yeah, the way I teach data viz in a workshop or in my course is usually from the ground up. So I really kind of think about it as visual perception, pre-attentive attributes, those sorts of things. That builds into then the chart types, because the chart types encode pre-attentive attributes, right? Color or length or size or whatever. Once we get into the chart types, which that can go for a couple weeks, then we do something with the charts, right? We put the charts on a display of some sort, and that then leads to dashboards versus storytelling with data, whether we're making something for PowerPoint versus making something that is exploratory and interactive. And so we kind of build up step by step. And then to end the course, the final weeks of the class are big projects. They have to do a visualization, and then the final project is an interactive visualization that they have to present in front of the class or record a video if they're online.
Do you see that any of like those assignments that you're talking about, or I guess any assignment throughout the class, are there any like consistent ones that are like, oh, aha, amongst these students, right? These aha moments for them?
Yeah. I in class when we're demoing, we're always using the Superstore data or the world indicators. But for the very first assignment, and some of you in the community, if you've been around for a while, I track my Halloween data, right? And I've been doing it for almost, 20 years at this point. And so there's so many years of that data. And so that's what I kick off with. I don't know if that is really the aha moment. That's more of the get your feet wet and play with a fun data set that is real and not the Superstore data. For me, I think the aha moments always come at the end of the course, because I see where they started in this Halloween data set and create quite often a visualization that's not very good. And then, weeks and weeks later, they're creating this final project that is interactive, that is pretty remarkable, right? To see their journey in a very, very short period of time. My graduate classes are usually 7-week sprints, and my undergrads are 14 weeks. So in one semester or half semester, I get to see this progress from, terrible visualization. And, week 2, we're talking about Makeover Monday. And then 5 weeks later, I'm watching them progress. So that for me is the aha moment. And I hope that's when it hits them.
Yeah. I love that you use your Halloween candy data. I think it also helps people see like there's data everywhere. It doesn't have to be some, Superstore thing. It can just be tracking Halloween candy.
Well, and they're so creative with it too, right? It's like
Yeah.
it just counts by time, which every business or company or university has. Like everybody has data over time, but they add weather, or they add sporting events, or they add prices of candy or costumes, and so there's so many directions they can go. So it's a lot of fun to see what
That
they
is
do
really
with it.
fun. So beyond just mastering the tool, what's something that you hope or wish for every student to understand by the end of your class?
I really push on curiosity and learners. That's really what I try to get them to understand. If they're not, when I think about people who make good data analysts, data scientists, or anybody working with data, you have to be curious about that data and really want to dive in like a detective, right? And to be good at it, I think we all have to be learners. I think that's why we do what we do. Is every session we're learning something, right? Whether you're learning from a peer, or just like you were talking about Kevin and Ken. Kevin used to work with me. He worked for me for 5 years. But the best times we had is like all of us in a room learning from each other, right? Somebody would figure something out and you learn from that. So I hope that's what I get from the students, is that I learn all the time too. Just because I've done this for decades, it's like I still learn stuff new every day. And so I hope that's, the skill that they pick up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's why I love tugs like this, or all the tugs, because I still learn something every single meeting, whether it's a tiny tip or something even bigger that I didn't know in the tool. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's always interesting to watch somebody work, because they do it in a different way than you do, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I feel like students especially often hear they need portfolios, right? Especially when they're going out on the job market, or they need to be marketable. So how do you kind of coach and help your students get something like that started, to develop one?
I've become a little more dogmatic about that as I've gotten older. So now I force them to do it. I used to just ask them, hey, create a Tableau public page. But, coming in the fall, if you're my student, you're going to be required to have one. We talk about that a lot at the college level. We call it, proof of work. LinkedIn page with experience or certifications just doesn't cut it anymore. It's that's the table stakes of getting. You're not even going to get the interview with that, right? And so having a GitHub page, having a Tableau public page, having something out there that shows what you're doing. You don't just say, hey, I've worked in Tableau. Well, then I want to see your Tableau public page. Show me what you've done. Show me, even if it's not beautiful visualization, show me your journey from where you started to where you are, so that I can see what kind of things you've created. So that is very important to me. And I think the second level of that is then going beyond the portfolio into how you've created the portfolio, whether that be blog posting or YouTube videos or something, right? To show people, hey, here's this viz I did. Let me show you how I built it, right? And so then I can kind of get into your mind of what you've built. And so I love the community projects. I really push Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, all the Tableau public initiatives out there, real world fake data. I love that one. So really push those to try to get students to create portfolios from that.
That's awesome. And I think that's a good reminder to everyone here too. I didn't have a Tableau public profile until I'd used Tableau for almost 4 years. So definitely a great reminder. I'm glad you forced them into it. So AI, we can't have a meeting without talking about AI. AI and generative tools are obviously hot topics right now across analytics and data. So how do you integrate AI kind of into your teaching and into your class?
Yeah, I spent more time in the last 3 years on AI than probably Tableau at this point. More presentations, more workshops, training, and all of that. And now the director of AI strategy for the college. So we're all in on AI. I'm I call myself the AI guy. So I'm very in, recognizing that there's a lot of considerations, data and security and ethics and all sorts of things. But that said, it's a paradigm shift. And if you have spent any time with it, even just playing around on your own vibe coding, you'll quickly see the power of it as it relates to data analysis, data visualization. Nothing more so than trying to take, try to build a node link diagram in Tableau without Tristan's tool. and then go do it vibe coding, and tell me which one's faster and quicker and better, right? It's like it's remarkable what you can do these days. And then as you relate it to Tableau, Power BI, or any other tool, Excel or whatever, they're all integrating AI with it as well. So the things that you can do today with those tools, from cleaning data, transforming data, and all of that, it's only getting better and faster. And so I think we have to adapt with that. And that goes to my learner, is that it's another tool. We're going to have to adapt to these AI tools that are going to change the way that we do our work going forward.
Yeah, they are changing everything. And it feels like a fire hose right now. That's just, everything is just adapting so quickly. So what would you say is something that you hope your students will learn when it comes to, integrating AI into their workflows and data? Because like you said, it's changing everything.
I would say two parts to that. One is the technical side. So they have to get in it and use it. So now I have, and at least in my courses, I have forced work in Gen AI tools where they have to vibe code, even though it's not a coding class. I'm not expecting them to know how to do HTML code, but yet I have them build a web app, right? And show them what the power of it is. And that flips them, I think, into maybe a UX sort of world, right? That we're used to as data viz folks, but maybe the students aren't used to. They have to think about, okay, well, what does the user need? What would the user ask for? What am I trying to solve? Same things we might ask in building out a data visualization. And then the part two of it that the students need to really focus on are the human skills, right? Because if AI can do all these technical things for us, then these students need to be really, really good, and they're not. This is something that they're really weak at. They need to be able to stand in front of people and present results and talk in front of people and make a problem statement and critique something and have a debate and talk through these things. So I think those skills become even more important in the AI age. So that's really what I've critique the AI, write up a report, use AI, build a web app, build a decision model, and then compare the decision model and say, okay, well, validate the results and present it, stand in front of the class and make a presentation and show me that you understand it. And so I think those become more important skills in the world of AI.
Yeah, like the soft human skills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And prompt engineering, so Harold said, prompt engineering becomes, a professor recently told me on his Gen AI assignment that he can almost tell from the prompt that they submit, he doesn't even need to look at the output, whether they understand the concept or not, meaning that they've asked an intelligent question, or, prompted an intelligent, prompt that you can understand from the workflow of the prompt that the student understands the concepts. And so that really that was a light bulb moment for me about, yeah, that's right. You have to understand the problem before you can even ask to solve it, right?
Yes. I'm actually taking an AI class right now, and he was saying, you just have to, if you can explain something to another human or to a coworker, that's how you'd explain it to AI. And so if you can't do that, then AI is not going to get it either. So,
right.
So as AI becomes more embedded kind of in all of our analytics platforms, how do you see it changing the role of tools like Tableau?
If you saw, a year ago on stage, we saw, I think it was Tristan's tool that they demoed, right? Which created 65 charts in about 30 seconds on the screen. It's just remarkable. I think we're going to get to the point where we're doing less dragging and dropping and calculating and LODs and all of these other things. We will be speech to results, right? We'll be able to talk to those things, and whether it's typing or talking, whatever, but it'll be text to action a lot more. And I think all the tools are moving there, right? Whether it's your email or Copilot that's integrated now, I can do all those things in Copilot to go and code and do those things over there in coding where I'm talking and I get a web app. I think that's where Tableau and Power BI and Excel and Sigma and all these other tools, that's where they're all going. And so when I see Tableau's developments, that's where it looks like it advances to, right? Less of the drag and drop and calculations and more to just get to the answers.
Yeah, it's exciting, but it's also kind of scary.
Well, it's 100% scary because you think about, like, this is the issue with relationships in Tableau, right? Like you say, oh, a join versus a relationship. It's like, well, if you don't know what that relationship is doing with your data and how it's connecting it, then how do you know the answer is correct, right? Like just something simple like that. And so now AI just takes that to the nth degree. It's like, well, if I ask the question and I just got the answer, how do I know that answer is right? You know, how do I know that that calculation is doing what it's doing? So I don't think our skill goes away. We still have to be skillful and artful. I just don't think we have to type the calculation anymore at some point, right? It's like we just have to understand it and review it.
That's a good perspective. Okay, last question. If you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting out in Tableau, just starting out in data viz today, what would you tell them?
Be a curious learner. Just go in, play with it. If that doesn't describe you, then pick something else, because I mean, you're in the wrong place. But if curiosity and you like to be a learner, you like technology in that instance, and you don't have to be a techie tech, right? But you have to be at least interested in learning. To me, that's the skill. It's and if you've heard of the there's these trait tests you take, the learner skill is always at the top for me. And that's the people I look to on my teams. People are really curious learners. I would say that's it. Yeah.
Be curious, stay curious.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you being here to be our community spotlight member today. We are lucky to have such a goat in the Tableau world. Don't forget to check out Jeff's session at Tableau Conference, and I'll see you there, Jeff, hopefully. And enjoy the rest of your spring break.
We'll see if we get to 80 tips.
Yeah, I'm going to be counting them. So
all right, there you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. All right, I am going to now throw it to Rob and Dennis.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And I love Jeffrey's thing that no matter how long we've been doing this, we're all still learning. It's such a great point. But on Spring Break Vibes, I'm now going to open up the stage to an absolute Tableau rock star, Dennis Cow. He is a social work professor. He's Tableau ambassador multiple times. He's just been announced as a return Tableau visionary again. So congratulations on that, Dennis. I've got a whole list of amazing things you've done. You've been a Tableau public featured author. You've got 10 Viz of the Days. Amazing. 2 Vizzy Awards, Best Designer and Biggest Growth, 9 Information is Beautiful Award long lists. You are a data viz and map designer genius, and I love all your work, specifically this one that you're going to show us today. I love the contrast and how you've shown this data in such an easy to view way. So welcome to the TUG, Dennis, and I'll throw it over to you to show everyone and tell them all about your viz.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for that introduction. Oh my goodness. I'm truly humbled to be following Jeff. Let me share my screen really quick. And let me know if you don't see that, because I'll be looking at my other screen. Okay, great. So hello, everybody. I've been asked to present this visit of the day, which actually occurred, I did this back in 2022. And so I had to really dig deep into my my archives in my brain to really remember what I was even doing or thinking during this time. And so I'm hoping that I could capture some of that here. I'm actually surprised that this viz, it's quite a simple viz, I think, in my mind. You'll notice a lot of my visualizations tend to be single charts or single maps. And this one was a fairly simple one in my mind, at least, small multiples, but and so I was very surprised by the attention it garnered. But I'll talk a little bit about kind of my approach, my design thinking, but I'm really, it was back in 2022, so I'm really kind of digging here. So I may not fully capture what I was thinking at the time. I think the other thing is, well, let me go to the next slide. So just a little bit more about me. Yes, I'm a social work professor. I'm originally from Los Angeles. So on a day like this where it's 30 degrees Fahrenheit and snowing in Ottawa, I truly miss being in Los Angeles right now. But I've been here, my family and I have been here in Ottawa for 8 years now, and I've been a social work professor at Carleton University, which is a small, kind of more locally based university here in Ottawa. And I am a faculty on the social work program. And then come July, actually, this is relatively new, I'm going to be the director of the School of Social Work starting in July. And as some of you might know, I also moonlight as a data viz and map designer. It's kind of more of a personal passion. I try to do a little consulting as well, and I've tried to integrate that into some of my social work teaching. I've been doing statistical and spatial analysis for about 15 plus years, but I only recently discovered Tableau relatively recently in November 2020. And so it's kind of cliche to say this, but it's kind of changed my entire life in terms of my professional life, the way I approach kind of my teaching, the way I approach my research. It's kind of invigorated my passion. Having done kind of statistics and spatial analysis and mapping for 15 plus years, having discovered Tableau really invigorated the passion that I had in all that, and really kind of opened up this whole other side of creativity that I don't think I ever had. And so 250 vizzes, about 250 vizzes later on my Tableau Public profile, it's just me, it's just kind of examples of me just exploring that creativity and creating visualizations that are both kind of professional in nature as well as personal. I started doing community projects. And so just like anybody else, I think community projects are a great way to kind of learn and get improve. And I'll be talking about one of these community projects in a minute. Right now, I guess. So one of the projects that I'm involved with is EduVizzers, which is a community projects. And we try to just simply provide an educational related database, a data set every month. It's since 2022. And so we have about 3-4 years worth of data sets just available. It's been curated by Amy, Maris, and myself over the years. And so hopefully people see this as a great resource for educational data. So the data set that I curated this data set, and data set that I use for my visualization is comes from the UNICEF, which is the United Nations Children's Fund. And they provide a whole host of data sets, mostly global or world data sets, country by country data sets and things like that. So I think it's a great data source. I've actually tapped into this resource quite a bit over the years. And there's a few of them in the EduVizzers website specifically. So take a look at it if you're interested in kind of global data that's related to the well-being of children and families and mothers. UNICEF provides a lot of great data. So just a little bit more about the data set. So it comes specifically from the global database on school-age digital connectivity. And school-age digital connectivity is very simple. It's a percentage of the school-age children. And obviously school age depends on, it might vary across different countries, but they're all based on household surveys from 87 countries, but it's the percentage of school age children that have an internet connection at home. As you might imagine, this was a very important issue, especially during the pandemic when a lot of schools, a lot of countries went online. So I'll just quickly, what I'll do is I'll go to the my public Tableau Public web page and go to the viz itself, and I'll just kind of demonstrate it, and I'll just talk about some of the components. So right off the bat, it's small multiples of the 87 countries, a little information on the left-hand side. I created these shapes, and I'll talk more about these shapes in a minute, but based on I think what kind of made this kind of maybe help resonate is, the shape that I use is basically the Wi-Fi signal that we're all accustomed to, right? And I think people, it automatically help people understand the issue. And kind of, I didn't intend this to happen, but when you go through the different populations, it kind of has this, it's not really animated, but it kind of has this effect where, I mean, I think we're all used to this, right? Like when our Wi-Fi connection is poor or goes down, it has this effect like so. And so I think, you know, in a very simple, this is a very simple viz, but I think in a way it kind of resonated because, you know, people quickly understood it and it made sense. You know, we're talking about internet connection right off the bat, et cetera. All right, so that's the viz. So let me go back. Where am I going back to? Here. All right. So for those who know me and some of my work, you're probably asking, why not a map, right? I mean, and of course, this is my first question always. Like you know, I've done GIS mapping for over 15 years now. And so, you know, whenever I even think about a project, like the way I approach my research is often from a spatially oriented perspective. And so if the question is about health access, I'm interested in health access and the accessibility of health services for older adults and things like that, and immigrants. And so when I think about accessibility, for example, sometimes one of the first things that comes to mind is, you know, where are clinics, where are hospitals located in relationship to where people live? And do people have a lot of barriers in getting to these places? And so that's one of I often think about my research and projects first from a spatially oriented perspective. And so of course a map is, you know, the first thing that I would probably create when I encounter any data set. And so I guess the question is, why not a map, right? And so let me just plug in the countries and I'll turn this into a map really quick. So what you'll notice is we only have 87 countries. And so when I saw this, I'm like, okay, so we're not going to have a complete map of the world. We only have 87 countries. And so would this be of value? And if I plug in the percentages as colors, you know, I think the colors definitely tell a story, but I think it's also a very well-known story, right? Like, so when we think about internet connection, I think we automatically or maybe immediately understand that certain countries in the South, probably in the southern part of the globe, probably don't have less access than the northern part of the globe, right? And so there's always this north-south kind of disparity. Africa stands out, obviously, in other countries in Asia and things. And so there's kind of two kind of questions that kind of I asked and probably led me down this road where, okay, a map's not going to quite work. So first of all, I had an incomplete information. I didn't, you know, I only had information on 87 countries. So, okay, so this would be kind of basically what the map looked like. And I didn't think that would work out that well. And also, I'm not sure if there's any kind of geographically interesting stories. Aside from kind of what we already understand. And so I think that those two questions were really the key kind of threshold questions that led me down the path of, okay, maybe let me try small multiples. And you know, as much as I love maps, I am actually a big fan of small multiples. And you'll notice that I have quite a lot of vizzes where if there's not a map, you know, there's probably a 50% chance that it's a small multiples visualization. So I really love small multiples. It's a great way to kind of condense a lot of information in a small space. And then you still get kind of the details on the individual kind of either participants or in this case, countries. You still get the nuance of the individual information for each country. And so in that way, I really love small multiples. And so this is an 8x11 grid, 8 columns, 11 rows. I tend to be a little old school because I think it comes back to my statistical training. I think there's multiple ways to create small multiples, but I like to actually create the, let me see if I can show you this. I actually like to create the calculations for each entity. And so this is for the rows, right? And then I also have the one for the columns as well. And you might say, oh, this is a lot of work, but there's this great tool by the Furlich twins, speaking about the Furlich twins, called the case statement generator. I've told them that this is probably by far my favorite tool that they've come up with. And it's because I do a lot of small multiples, it's the one tool that I use the most from the Furlich twins. And how it works is basically all you need to do is paste whatever the categories here, the groups here, and then you can actually quickly type in whatever the value you want here. So you can also have quoted as well here. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, what happened here? Okay. Okay, I'm going to skip that. You can also on this tab you can have the actual then statement here in quotes. Well, all you have to do is change this here, and then it'll create the case statement here. You copy this over, and then you can paste it into the calculation. So by far one of my favorite and most used tools from the Furlich twins ever. Right,
Dennis, just a quick question. Someone's just saying they're not sure they understand the terminology small multiples. Would you be able to just explain that?
Well, small multiples, I don't know, like, I think it's basically you have a grid and you'll notice that all 87 countries are in this grid, like across. And I'm not quite sure like how the terminology came about, small multiples. But it's basically a grid of all the countries. And I like grids. I like the small multiples, and all the information is presented like so, as opposed to a map or a bar graph or things like that. And I like small multiples because, especially when it comes to countries, and I think I've commented, like, you know, some people like to use tile maps for the world. I'm not particularly fond of tile maps because they alter the geography to an extent that I much rather just present the data in a small multiples when I'm not using a map, because I think somebody can easily go and scan alphabetically the countries as opposed to wondering what a specific square is on a tile map. And so a small multiples based Jeff or somebody else here might have kind of a better definition. All I know is everything's presented in a grid. And it presents kind of a lot of information in a small space in this grid. I don't know if that helps.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so all the countries are presented. So Algeria. So how it works is Algeria is column 1, row 1. Angola is column 2, row 1, and so forth. And so when you do the calculation, you do it so. So I have one calculation for the rows. So you'll notice Algeria row 1, Angola row 1, etc. And then in the columns, also Algeria row 1, column 1, and Angola column 2, Argentina column 3, and so forth. And then you put these two marks into the appropriate, so columns under columns, and then rows in rows here, and it'll set up the kind of the grid, and then you can add whatever you want, like so labels, a shape, or etc. Okay. All right. So the shape I created in Figma, and I'll quickly show you that. So I found an image of the Wi-Fi signal, internet signal image here. And Figma is great. Like, for those who aren't familiar with Figma is like a graphic design tool for non-graphic designers, right? So I don't have any graphic design experience, but it makes a lot of things very easy, kind of like Canva in a certain way, but I think a lot more functionality and things like that. Okay. And so they have this great plugin called Image Tracer. And I'll quickly show you that. So this is basically an image that you can find on the internet anywhere. So what I need to do is turn it into a vector, which I'll show you in a minute. So they have this tool called Image Tracer. And once I turn that on, what it will do, and you won't be able to see this necessarily, but it basically will create points and lines that trace the image, right? I'm having trouble with my zoom tool for some reason. It just goes big. So you can notice that it'll try to trace whatever the image is with points, and you can adjust the kind of the different kind of, there's adjustments here that you can make to kind of make it even like smoother or maybe a little more kind of less smooth, etc. And once I do that, what it'll do, it'll create a image like so. It looks exactly the same, but when you double click it, you'll notice all the points here, right? And now, because it's a vector file, you can actually alter it, right? Like, so I can move it around any of these points, etc. I can change the color and things like that. So what I end up doing is creating a series of shapes here. So first, you know, the dot here is, so this symbol would represent those who had 20, the countries with less than 20% of school-age children having internet connection. And then the next one would be 20 to 39, 40 to 50, 40 to 59, 60 to 79. Oh, wait, I'm missing one. Oh, right here. No, this is less than 20. This is 20 to 39, etc. And all the way up to here, which is 80 plus, 80% plus. Okay. And so I ended up using those different shapes to represent the different percentage ranges to try to make it simpler, right? And so now, instead of like a continuous scale, now there's 5 categories. I also used this image to create the legend here as well. And you can see that here. And this is another great kind of little thing that you can do here as well. So I'm going to just take a copy of this one and put it here. Hopefully you can see that here. And so another thing that you can do in Figma is you can do a masking effect, right? So what I'll do is I will create a rectangle about halfway here and make this black, like so. And when I select both of these together, I'm hoping this works. And where is it? They changed some things around, so and I haven't used is this one? Yeah, use as a mask right here. So if I do that, so what happens is now automatically, did it do it? No, it didn't do it. Let me see. Oh wait, let me switch the order. So I need to have this in front there. Sorry about that. No, that didn't work either. How did I do this? Something like that. Okay. Hopefully you get the idea, right? So you could use the masking tool, and I use the masking tool simply to create this half. And because one of the things I wanted to do is create a legend, and I thought this might be the best way to do that without replicating, having to replicate the image. Is I can have all 5 categories represented, and so obviously 20. Those who are less than 20 would be represented by this side, and all the others would be represented here. And you can see that in the legend. I'll show you in a minute. So that's Figma. Of course, I'm a little rusty because I haven't used Figma in a while. Okay. And then I have these buttons. I created some parameters. I created a parameter. Let me show you really quick. I created a parameter of the different populations. So that's some different populations. So total, rural, urban, etc. And create a parameter, and then created these buttons here in order to create this little selection kind of mechanism here. Okay. And then finally, you can see the legend here. It's just an image. And then the annotations aren't going to look good here because I created the annotations here so that they can correspond to the right mark. Okay. And I think, and that altogether is this visualization here. I think that's it.
That was really great, Dennis. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And you've got such a great way of balancing design and really impactful storytelling. So yeah, it's fantastic to see behind the scenes as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now passing over to Priyanka and Ella.
Okay, let me turn.
I think we got to do a quick swag drawing.
Oh, sorry. Swag first. My bad. My bad.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm not sure what type of person you are, either optimist or pessimist, but this is one of those situations where we are in between the Tableau store rollout. So what you're going to win today, glass half full, is you can't get your stuff today, but when the new store opens, you'll be the first one to get new swag to wear to TC. That's the glass half full part. So yeah, let's see who the winner is. This is the most we've ever had on the Tableau. Nope, that's not it. Come on, spin. I don't think I can read anybody's name, so we'll just have to wait and see who pops up. Edmund Wang, congratulations. Send me a DM and I will tell you how to email. We'll send an email to tableau.public.tug@gmail.com and we will get you set up with a gift certificate, $50 gift certificate to the Tableau store when they become available. All right. Thanks, Edmund. Congratulations. All right. Stop sharing. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Back to you, Priyanka and Ella.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks, Dennis, for this wonderful presentation. Big fan of your map. I might have told you that before as well. Next up, we have Ella, and she'll be showing us this amazing dashboard that she has on the screen right now. Before I pass it to Ella, I'll just give a brief introduction to her. So Ella is a business intelligence analyst at Levy Analytics. She has experience with finance, medical insurance, and sales. She's a passionate member of global Tableau community. Her visualizations have been featured 3 times as Viz of the Day. And one of her vizzes was shortlisted for information is beautiful, which is amazing. She plays an active role in the Lagos Tableau user group, helping shape the community events. And outside data, she enjoys staying active at gym, loves diving into TV, film, pop culture, and music. So I'll just pass it back to Ella and take it over from here.
Thank you, Priyanka, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Grateful for the opportunity to be sharing my visualization And yeah, today we're going to be going behind the scenes of my academic performance tracker, but this dashboard has only one page, which is the student's performance tracker. Priyanka already did an introduction, so I'm just gonna skip over that real quick. With every dashboard that I start with, I always, most times, will start with an inspiration. And for this dashboard, I was inspired by Evan Verson's dashboard. It's a student performance tracker. And this is what it looks like. I got the inspiration to dive into education data set just of seeing his own. And when I saw it, I thought it was really interesting and it made me want to make mine also. So I tried to reverse engineer the V's and I was having some issues, but the issue I was having was not with the visuals, it was with data structure. So I reached out to him on Twitter to explain where I was having a little bit of difficulty, and he took his time to explain to me, and that would guide how I would create a data set for my own dashboard. For every dashboard that I make, I would usually have some sort of goal, and this goal is usually intrinsic, something that doesn't have to do with what people would say or some external value, usually something I want to learn most of the time. So for this dashboard, I had two goals in mind. The first one is to create synthetic data using AI, and the other one was to create a dashboard with seamless user experience. Creating synthetic data has its upsides, and one of which is because most times real world data is not accessible, especially in sensitive domains, and synthetic data bridges the gap between that. Before generative AI became as popular as it is, people would use tools such as Makuru and the likes. I never knew how to use that, so I never created my own data. But generative AI has made it so easy to just have a prompt and it generates the data set for you. Second goal, which is to create a seamless user experience. I believe that a dashboard is only as good as how often it's used. And one thing that drives engagement in dashboards is how intuitive and seamless the design of the dashboard is. So whenever I start a project, I would usually start by gathering requirements. I'll call it requirement gathering stage. And for this dashboard, since I had two goals, my requirement gathering stage was focused on those two goals. For the UX part of the dashboard, I asked questions like who the end user was going to be, what their goal was, what 3 questions do they need answered, what action would they take with the information or the insight this dashboard would provide, and how easy should this information be accessible to the end user. And that would inspire how the metrics and the fields that I need, because I was the one generating it, I needed to also take note of that, the level of granularity, what's the time range, and such and such. So whenever I'm done with the asking questions, I will usually have my answers in a note. Sometimes I will write it down in a piece of paper, but luckily this time I had it in a Notion page, which is one of the few times I would do that. I made this dashboard almost a year ago and I remember almost nothing, but good thing I had this to juggle my memory a bit. So from the things I wrote down, I said that the main user of the dashboard was a teacher and they wanted to have full view of a student's academic and engagement performance. Start clear and simple. And the 3 questions they wanted answered was how well a student was performing compared to before, is their attendance or behavior a cause for concern, and are they struggling or getting stronger at any subject. And I will usually end up with a table, would have the content I'm trying to make, which is the visualization I would make or the KPI I would create, actions to be taken. This will usually inform the kind of interactivity, and in this case, the kind of data, the kind of fields and columns I would create and generate with AI. And one last thing, before I move to the wireframing phase of a dashboard, I like to define what the highest priority is, what the medium priority is, and what the lowest priority is, because it also helps me decide ahead what the layout of the dashboard is. So this dashboard goes from top to bottom. I will show that further along. And whenever something is of lower priority, I would make it a separate section where you have to click on something to access that page. So this is what my wireframe looks like. Whenever I want to do a wireframe or draw a wireframe, usually my original ideas. So the very first ideas I have, even before generating any data set, I like to put all my ideas on paper. So I had that. I also would make notes about the kind of interactivity that I wanted. Some of them don't make it to the final stage because by the time I come in contact with the data, I realize that, oh, this would be better. This won't work as well as I thought it would. So for me, wireframing is an iterative process, but I like to keep it really fast at this stage and just move ahead to Tableau and start playing with the data set. So for this data set, because I knew what the who the final user was, I had an idea of all the fields I wanted, at least in the earlier stages. I was able to start generating data, some data sets. I ended up with 6 tables, and I made data set for made the data for 5 students. Now I'm going to go to the Tableau dashboard real quick, just to show the data set. Oops. So take, for instance, the student profile. I have things like their name, their hobbies, the relationship of their guardian and contact information, if they have any learning struggles, and if they are returning or a transfer student. Now, the reason why I'm able to prompt as well as good as I did is because of all the questions I asked in the earlier stage. There is no skipping that, because the AI prompt is only as good as what you know or the final result that you're trying to achieve. I don't have the original prompt I use, but I just made one. So this is one I would gives similar results to the student profile table that I had. Generate a student profile table for 5 elementary students. I have their student ID, their name, and just make the data realistic and diverse. And I have this. One thing that I did for this dashboard that made it really easy for me to create is I didn't try to create lots of information for a lot of students. And it was actually ChatGPT that gave me the idea to just work with just 5 students, because 5 students is enough to show as much diversity in the data that I'm trying to show without being too much on me. Because one thing I've learned is that no matter how good your prompt is, you always have to go back and validate to make sure ChatGPT doesn't, or any generative AI that you use is making note of those instructions that you've given. So that's a tip that I have. And the process is iterative, and you have to go back, and when you start building charts, you realize that, oh, maybe this isn't as realistic as I thought it was. Maybe data set is flat. That's one of the I'll say the downsides of creating your own data set. So since it's as easy as going back to prompt, I just did that so many times. So I started with about 4 tables, but I ended up making 2 extra tables that I just aggregate so that creating the visualization is easier for me. So go to the dashboard now. So just a little interaction with the dashboard. I have the student's name because the main goal is to see a single student. It's a single student view, and you can select the student you want to see here. I already broke this because I was trying to do a demo. So you can also see the profile. I would classify this information as lower priority. It's not what you will need every day, so that's why it's hidden. And I also have the performance, the KPIs up on top, and I have information about assessment, more details down here, and I have information about behavior. So because I took my time to ask questions, think about how the teacher might want to use this, it was so easy for me to figure out the layout and how I wanted to do it. Because I'm also trying to hide as much information while keeping what is important up front, I used a lot of progressive disclosure here. So just can get more detailed view, more detailed view, more detailed view, more detailed view. So I can expand the table for more information, close the table for more information. Because I believe when a teacher would use a dashboard like this is mostly to get information as quickly as possible. They want to know how well a student does. Is why I also have insights written out as text using natural language. So I'm just gonna go behind the scenes of this, how I made these bars. I've got a demo here. So I made this by having an average one and then the KPI I wanted to use, in this case, the average grade of 4, and I put them in a dual axis. Just gonna remove that. Oh, the color popped out. Just change it. Oops, what's this? Okay. So what I did here, the reason why the lines are here, I'm using reference band to create lines. So for every 10%, like it creates a new line, and that's how I was able to create this progressive bar with all in Tableau without any externals or any hacks. I think that's a hack, but yeah. Another thing that I did was creating this button. So the thing with this dashboard is that because I wanted information to be as clear as possible and to get inside as fast as possible, I also wanted to give the end user the ability to get more details. And for me to be able to put that in a dashboard, I would have to hide that. And I ended up using dynamic zone visibility a lot. I used it for almost every interaction except this. This is the only one that is a show and hide interaction. So how I did it with these buttons, for instance, was that I had two buttons. Take for this, let me use this. So you can switch between the trend and the overview. So this view now is the overview. And if you wanted to see month by month progress, you can just switch to trends. So how I did that was that I created a circle and I used a parameter. In this case, I have T and O to represent trend and overview. And I also created a calculation, a Boolean calculation for when trend is equal to T, it will change the color. And I just bring that into the dashboard and just plug it in with actions. Yeah, that's the dashboard. Something else that I wanted to point out was this radar chart. I think is one of the highlights of these visualizations for me. And I was able to create this very seamlessly by following Ellen Blackburn's tutorial. She has a blog where she really details some math things. I just try to plug that into my data. She really goes into details and explains everything. Yeah. So for the background, what I did was that I created the background in Figma. And what I like to do is I love to use gradients because I think gradients is an easy way to add color without doing so much. So I started with this version, but I didn't like it because I thought it was a little bit too dark. Then I moved on to this. This was my final version of dashboard. I also have drop shadows just for a little bit of lift. Very, very subtle. And for the student profile, if you see here, I have I don't think you can see that properly, but I have some sort of gradients around the picture. I thought it would make the dashboard a little bit more cohesive. And how I did that was that I created a circle, and then I changed the stroke to the same gradient as the dashboard, and I filled in the images, and I just filled in the image. So instead of having a solid background, it's the image. I also created the images with ChatGPT because I wanted to have the same cohesiveness, and was able to do that real quick in like a few seconds. My takeaway from this dashboard is that data structure is probably one of the most important thing. And when you create your own data sets, you tend to have a personal relationship with the data, unlike when you use dummy data sets. And also asking questions and understanding the end goal of the user is not going away. Even with the use of AI, you still have to take time to understand the user, their pain points, how they think, and how they would behave. Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to stop presenting.
Thanks, Ella, for the wonderful presentation. I think everyone loved the design. It's very clean. There's no diversion from the topic. And it still answers every question. My personal favorite was the lines that use reference lines. I think I've seen that used once before, but love the use, avoiding any external tools and just using Tableau. Amazing. There have been a lot of comments, but I think there was one question that I saw, which was mostly on Figma, I guess. When you export your image, what image type are you using as the dashboard background? What type? Basically, is it PNG or something else?
Yeah, it's PNG. Yeah, PNG.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I see here. Thank you so much, Ella. That was wonderful. I also loved the prompt that you had. I've never used AI to generate data. So far, I've used tools like Mokuru in the past, but this is great. I'm going to definitely give that a try and see how it goes. Thank you so much, Ella.
Yeah, that was a beautiful process from start to finish. The planning, the prompting. Like I was thinking, they're thinking, I just scribble stuff out on a pad of paper, and yours is so clean and neat. I love it. And we love the dashboard. Absolutely, absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeff, Dennis, and Ella for being here today for our special spring break broadcast. Our next meeting of the Tableau Public Tug features 3 more data rock stars. We have Shreya Arya. She is also known as the Data Viz Fairy in our community spotlight. And then we're going to take a look at these 2 vizzes, one by Dan Wade, his Formula 1 lap times, and Mo Wooten's NFL drive charts viz. So be sure to RSVP for that. And thank you all so much for being here and bringing the viz and spring break vibes. This was a really fun one, and we hope to see you next time.
Awesome.